This is E2G Hockey with Dan and Tyson. We're coming in hot today. I am Dan. He is Tyson. Shut up, Tyson. We have already.
That's the attitude I like. I like that.
We're coming in hot today. Well, okay. You're probably wondering. You're probably not, but we're going to tell you either way. Why? What's the delay between episodes? Well, Tyson and I had recorded an episode. And then due to an audio mishap, I hope audio was fine this time, we had to scratch the entire episode. And let me tell you, we were brilliant. We were on a tear. We were hot. We were bothered. We were taking on we solved a lot of the world's politics in that episode, but unfortunately you'll never hear it.
It was too hot to handle. It was a little too spicy.
And it was like back in the day when you would get it like, there'd be the R-rated version of a movie, and then there'd be like the unrated version. It wasn't like we just had some hot takes that would make us many an enemy.
Danny and Tyson gone wild.
There's that 15-second commercial that pops up late at night on comedy. So anyway.
That your dad gets really excited about, but your mom doesn't like.
Get out of the room! Get out of the room!
It's like, I like that commercial.
Oh, man. Anyway, we talked a lot of things in the last episode that we can briefly say. We covered the Tim Peel firing. We both found it ridiculous, to say the least. Regardless of what you feel about Tim Peel, we felt that they just made him as the scapegoat. We went more in depth in the last episode, but that was where we stood on that. We talked about the Carter Hart healthy scratch and the tactlessness, just the low-level, classless journalism, quote unquote, of that one reporter out in Philly doing a story on him splitting with his psychiatrist, which is just, there's certain things in sports that should be forbidden. And in these days of mental health, you don't go into a person's personal, you just don't go there. It was a gutless move. And I felt, so it was another hot take. If that reporter, quote unquote, wants to meet me in the streets of Philly, I'm not going to show up, but he can meet me. He can go.
All this is just us starting fights with people, and I love it. This is the type of energy that I'm rolling for. I love a good 9 a.m. scrap.
It's perfect. And then what we were most excited to talk about was the National Women's Hockey League Championship, the Isobel Cup. Boston Pride took the championship away from the Minnesota Whitecaps. And really, we just wanted to kind of go back to that. So we were just both so excited that women's hockey is finally getting the recognition. I mean, it's not to the level that it needs to be. We can both acknowledge that full well. But for it to be airing on NBC Sports Network, that was a huge step in the right direction. Beforehand, they'd been solely going in on Twitch. They had a partnership with Twitch, was that where they're premiering. But not everybody's going to fire up their computer and watch on Twitch. So to see it on nationally televised, it was really exciting to see. And we had a great weekend watching it. And shout out to Dempsey and the Boston Pride. And hopefully next year we can get more than $1,000 check as your MVP prize. If people are just giving away those Honda, pilots that they're giving out at the NHL All-Star games, just to the guy who had the best game, why can't you have that? I just want the equality in sports, and I think Tyson does as well. I hope so, Tyson.
I agree, but don't knock a quick grand. Like, I'm not going to lie. I know the stimmy check is in the mail, and I started looking at Teslas last night. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you. The tab is open right now. So while I do agree, I think there's a little bit of parity needed. That money could go a long way. Trust me, I know firsthand.
You can't get it. You can't, unless you have Dogecoin or Bitcoin. You can't. I think Tesla's going to be a little bit more pricey. That was the key points for the hot lost episode. I think it was just kind of fun to acknowledge that we early on in the podcast we made a mistake. So
we haven't uploaded for like 9 weeks. We took spring break at this point.
And we kept joking about it being a 1 of 5, and they cut us off at 3. They're like, "Wow, these guys really dropped the ball early."
Yeah, we're not giving them 5.
So this is actually episode 4. 4 of it technically is. So where do we want to kick episode 4 off?
Can we start it with Dubinsky?
Oh, did he make headlines or something?
I didn't see it. Did you see anything?
No,
I was talking about his stellar play throughout his career.
Oh, yeah.
Did he do something recently?
Yeah, he may have made a podcast. He was on a podcast recently and said a couple hot take things, and then he followed it up on Twitter. You want to?
Okay, I didn't hear it. Tell me more.
I'd rather you tell me. I want to hear I've done my talking to start the show. You kick us off with this one.
All right. So our good friend Brandon Dubinsky alumni for several NHL teams, made some telling comments about a certain debate that has ravaged message boards since 2005, 2006, which is the very hot topic of Alexander Ovechkin versus Sidney Crosby. He didn't really mince words. He was very particular. What was the exact quote that he said, kind of barring out some profanity, Danny?
Let me get it right here. Everybody wants to talk about Sid and Ovi or whatever Dubinsky said. Dude, F Sid. I'll take Ovi every day of the week. He goes to double down on Twitter I think it was a couple days ago, and at this point he goes, listen, Crosby's better than me. I never said he wasn't. He's obviously one of the best ever. It was Ovi versus Sid. None of you played in the NHL know how hard it is to score goals in the NHL. 724 is insane. Sid just whined way too much, and Ovi just shut up and played hard. And then he put his stats up there. He's like, look, and I think he can acknowledge that the player that Crosby is, but he's not the biggest Sid the Kid fan. Can you call him Sid the Kid anymore?
Yeah, I think you can roll with it. Yeah, I don't know. I see someone that has absolutely been in Dubinsky's kitchen for the last however many, decade and a half, whatever. I see someone that's absolutely torched him in several series. There's definitely a tremendous amount of bias here. I think there's no secret that Dubinsky didn't like Sid. I don't think we learned anything from that perspective. I also never think that it's a good idea when you put something out. If you have to follow up on Twitter, I think you've lost that argument already, and I think this is a really good statement here. So I don't know, that like the stats, I think they back up the normal argument. Sid has, first off, way more personal and team accolades. He has a higher point per game.
No, you can't say personal accolades. No player has got more scoring titles than Ovechkin ever.
He has more accolades as a whole from a personal and a team perspective. I'm not saying purely scoring. He has more MVPs. He has more scoring titles. He also has a Rocket Richard. He has MVP trophies. He has everything that you can win from a personal and team perspective from country and club. Wow, I'll be the first to admit that I think Alex Ovechkin. So? He has World Junior. He has every other situation. You're telling me those Russian teams haven't been as stacked as some Canadian teams? That's
offensively,
not true.
yes. Defensively, no.
That's such a lazy NHL take, Danny. That's
not a lazy NHL take. How is it a lazy?
They've had defensemen. They've had goaltending. Russia can just
name a Russian defenseman. Just name one.
I can't name them legally, Danny.
Exactly.
You know the problems that I have overseas. You know the issues that I have. I have restraining orders. I have things that I can't say.
No, my God. No, I think there's no question here on who is the.
Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer of all time. I firmly believe that. Sidney Crosby is the better player. You can't go wrong with either of these guys. Sidney Crosby is the better player. He's the player that you take if you're starting a franchise tomorrow 10 times out of 10. Alex Ovechkin is a fantastic player. I think he's the best goal scorer of all time. It's a good argument, but I just don't think that you could take away from Sid. I don't care about, who cares about, you can whine all you want if you're scoring 160 points a year. I have no problem with that.
It drove me nuts early on in his career. Because he was that good. He was that good. Do you know what was crazy? I was reading an article the other day about it, and it was like Sid adapted. So as we all recall, Crosby kind of missed about 2.5 years of his prime due to concussion injuries, right? And it was so much so that we were worried that he was going to have to retire early. We were all worried about it. The game missed Crosby. As much as you liked or disliked Crosby, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you love him. You should love him forever. Build your shrines, put him on your Mount Rushmore, and he should be. He's a top 5 player of all time. He is. In terms of well-rounded players, he's a top 5 today all time because of the career he's had. But the argument I saw that I really appreciate about Sid is that he adapted, he changed his game pre and post. Early pre-concussion, he was flying all over the place. He was moving like McDavid does now. He was just kind of whipping through the ice, and it was a tougher game, and he got hit. He got punished for it. You look at him now, you never see him in full stride. After that concussion, you never saw him in full stride. What you saw, though, was the smartest guy in the ice night in and night out. He knew he could position himself better than anybody. His stride was wider. He just protected himself better, and he made the better hockey play. You're looking at your eyebrows.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I'll be the first one to say that. I just don't think that's true. I think you see a guy that as they get older, you have to adapt. Connor McDavid isn't going to be that fast for the rest of his career. So he came into the league and he was blitzing past guys and he was deking through them and he was skating past them. I don't really think the change, maybe it coincided a little bit with a concussion, but I think the first goal that he scored back from coming back from concussion against the Islanders when he skated through the entire team, picked up a pass with Pascal Dupuis. So I don't think he really changed too much. I think it maybe just coincided with the fact that he was getting a little bit older. So that's the game that he kind of had to play. That was all his bread and butter, that down low play. So I think he just accented a little bit more as he got older. Maybe it was a correlation, a little bit of the concussion, but I really think that was just him getting older and adapting. Listen, man, at the end of the day, I don't think there's a single player on the planet but Sidney Crosby that can go out and say, hey, I want to win a scoring title this year. I want to win a goal scoring title this year and win it.
I think he could do it if he chose to do it. I give you that. You think about the people that Crosby's played on a line with most of the time, right? Crosby hasn't had.
Ovechkin's had Backstrom his entire career.
That's what I'm saying.
He's had Backstrom and John Carlson throwing him the puck on the power play and at even strength his entire career. Listen, I love Pascal Dupuis, but Pascal Dupuis is nothing. Connor Sheary, Jake Gensel. We can go on and on and on. We could make a list of how many millions Sidney Crosby has made his wingers throughout his entire career.
Phil Kessel's like thanks. Well, he was on Malkin. Yeah, he didn't even have.
You can't say the same about Ovechkin. Crosby can decide one year, hey, I'm going to work on my shooting and then score a Rocket Richard. I don't think Ovechkin can go out and say, hey, I want 80 assists this year. And they're different players. It's fine. But Sidney Crosby is just the better player.
This is like 1A, 1B. We've all acknowledged that. So here's the stats that to date, when Dubinsky put this out, the other Dub, 16 years of both players. That's what's crazy. We've had 16 glorious years of both these players. And in 1,020 games, Crosby has had 476 goals, 827 assists, 1,303 in points, right? Ovechkin, 64 more games in 1,184, 724 goals. Are you kidding me? And then 585 assists, 1,309 points. The points per game, Crosby's got the leg up, no question. What I'll give to the Dubinsky about this, though, is he played against both of them. Hell, he fought both of them. He literally physically fought Ovechkin. He physically fought Crosby. Multiple times they've gone at it. If anybody can speak to this, I would say it'd be Dubinsky. I think he's got a personal bias. I think what he likes about Ovechkin is he respects his style of play a bit more in terms of that hard-nosed, run you down kind of approach. And if your team's down, he's not afraid to drop them. Crosby, he just thought was a whiny guy, a whiny kid. At 800 and something.
Look at those early days of Crosby, though. He was getting hooked by three guys.
No question.
Guys were hanging off of him. I get the whole whining thing and everything like that. Since Crosby was 12 years old, he had guys that were 5-6 years older than him completely just ravaging him and taking him down and no calls, whatever. I think at a certain point you have to do it. You need to create space on the ice. I think the stats speak for themselves. Sid has a higher point per game. He missed, almost 200 games compared to Ovi. He's also a year younger despite the draft year. Ovi's a year older than him as well too. So, it's a great argument, but I just don't see how you can ever kind of come to the fact that Sidney Crosby has maybe Dubinsky's coming from the perspective of, he scored this many more goals, so he's better than him. How many goals has Crosby scored where he's absolutely undressed four guys? Or how many assists has he had where he's absolutely undressed four guys and then passed it backdoor to someone that no one on the ice saw except for him? That's, to me, the better player.
Who do I like watching more? That's really the question. They're two different styles of play. That's a thing. Like Ovechkin at his best, pretty fun to watch. Crosby behind the net is a maestro. I don't know, different styles. Where am I putting all time these players? Crosby's a top 5. I think he's currently in my mind, I think 4th all time. And if he gets another cup, put him at 3. Ovechkin. Do I put Ovechkin in the top 10 all time players? I don't know. There's a lot of
Ovechkin's the top goal scorer of all time, but man, I understand it's a team sport, and I understand Ovi hasn't had help. Ovi's also had some of the best teams ever. That President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals team where Mike Reed scored 30 goals.
I love that.
Some of the best teams ever. So I get it. It's a team sport. I really don't like using that as a cop-out. At the end of the day, man, 3 Stanley Cups and back-to-back.
Yeah,
back-to-back Stanley Cups. You know what I mean? Sid's on a different level.
I'll give it to Sid. I say Ovechkin got the monkey off his back with that Stanley Cup. So it's but Crosby has also been to the Stanley Cup Finals 4 times. He won 3 of them. He's a 3-1.
Yeah.
But that run against Detroit,
and the Detroit Red Wings are nothing compared to the Vegas Golden Knights. I love Ovi. I am tremendously glad that he got his cup, but
I think
Nashville and San Jose, a little difficult. You have to come to the fact that Pittsburgh has won back-to-back cups. They went to back-to-back cups against 2 of the best Detroit teams with 5, 6 Hall of Famers, some of the best players of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Almost won the first time, came back and beat them in Game 7, and one of the best Game 7s of all time, Danny.
Yeah.
Against a team that they had no business beating.
Do you know which one always what broke my heart at the time was Marian Hossa.
Hossa's I love Hossa.
I do too.
Snaky move. Super snaky.
He was like, we lost to this team, go to the other team, they lose. And he's just like, are you joking me?
Well, then he's like, all right, like maybe the Chicago guys look pretty good. And then he finally lucked out.
3 of them. Hey, Marian Hossa to me was one of my favorite players to ever watch. When his stint in Atlanta, God bless him. God bless him.
He was like anyone that's played in Atlanta.
I do. It was Kovalchuk, Hossa, and Mark Savard on a line, and they dummied the league in points, but the rest of the team was just so garbage. They were just offensively juggernauts. And then they got into the playoffs that year, their great season, and they get swept by the Rangers. I remember being at one game, Sean Avery took a shot off the glass, dumping it out of the zone. And Atlanta being Atlanta, the glass was wonky, and it just took a weird bounce. And I think it was Pavlik or whoever was in net goes to play the puck around the net because that's what it should have done. But instead, with the wonky glass, ricochets right off, goes straight into the net. And if you just Google Sean Avery playoff Atlanta goal, and you're going to be like, what the hell is that?
The on-ice attendant was having a little too much moonshine before that game.
I was a kid, and I had a Rangers jersey on, growing up a Rangers jersey in Atlanta. And all of a sudden, all these Atlanta fans were so fair-weathered, and all of a sudden, they're showing up and they're showing out. Like, we're a hockey city, and they get swept. It's brutal. But I remember being at the game, and I had my Rangers jersey on, and a guy behind me, after that Avery goal, grabs me, an adult, I'm a kid at the time, grabs me, and he goes, look, I've been drinking a little bit. And I'm not saying I'm above roughing up a kid right now. I was like horrified. I was like, where have you been, fair weather fan? Like, I've pulled for the Thrashers every game except against the Rangers. I've been there. I went to so many games. I saw so many great players. And this is my series. I'm sorry. You have Jaromir Jagr on that team, Sean Avery. I mean, it was a great team to watch. And then some guy's like, I'm going to mess up a kid tonight over in Atlanta Thrashers team.
He was going to dummy you. He was going to make you a pinata. He was going to go full McKinnon, throw his helmet right at you.
I remember my buddy who I went with, it was just the 2 of us because we were right at that age where we could go to the games by ourselves, probably around 14, 15. I think we were still in middle school. It was just the 2 of us, which I don't think you could do in today's society.
I don't think it's allowed.
I don't think parents would be cool with that. But my parents were like, if he gets lost, he'll be fine. He's got 1 bar on his singular wireless cell phone. He'll be fine. He was horrified to see me walk up with a Rangers jersey. He was like, we're going to get in trouble. Like, they're going to be mad at us. And I was like, it's Atlanta.
Yeah, that's right. You lost the team next season, so that guy probably just went to go watch the Falcons lose.
I got to play on that ice before. I actually got to play in a senior showcase in high school, and the next season they lost the team. But I got to skate on that Phillips Arena ice, and I crushed a kid. I remember my dad jumping up in the stands because I hit a kid so hard.
That's all that Atlanta parents care about. You were -3, no points in the last 2 weeks, but you smoked this kid. Your dad was like, "Attaboy."
A-level hockey. And some guy from college, a college club team was like, I want you to come play. It was just because I hit a kid.
University of Alabama's hockey team was like, all right, we'll take this kid.
I hit a kid good. And my dad was like, dang. That was a hard pill to swallow. It's I was playing my best hockey. I was just mean. I was just mean on the ice. I was a great penalty killer. And I could have probably been playing AA or played club level hockey. And then I had to give it up. And that was kind of heartbreaking. My cardio was insane. You just couldn't take the puck away from me. And I was going to hurt you. And then I just stopped playing. That was it. I never had hands.
I probably could have taken the puck away from you.
At my level? Oh no. Yeah. I was gonna hurt you at A-level hockey. But I remember
I would have got a 2-hand slash for the Achilles after, but I think I could have taken it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think that was a hard pill to swallow, is that you work so hard at something then you just have to stop. Yeah. So anyway, huge Dubinsky fan.
All right, Sid's better than Ovi. What are we on to next?
I think Dubinsky might have been young on that team, by the way. Which I think this ties nicely into the conversation about the whining, the chirping, the crying, whatever you want to call it, right? I think there's been this whole argument as of late about superstars are fed up, right? Superstars have really been frustrated about night in and night out, not getting a call, getting hooked, getting slashed, getting everything. Crosby would have had no concussions, none, had the refs been as strict as they are now, right? So, but I think we look at let's talk about the McDavid and MacKinnon's fines real quick. I think you can't put them in the same boat, but it's in the same week, and it's two superstars getting frustrated. And I think there's a conversation to be had there because they were both fined the league maximum of $5,000. When you watched, how do we approach this? Do we talk about them? I think we should talk about them individually at first. So let's talk about it in the order that they happened. McDavid, when you saw the video, the clip of it, what did you think?
I see, man, I mean, McDavid's going a million miles an hour. So I see a guy who's coming over. He's finishing his check. I don't think it's high. You can say what you want after, but I don't think it's high.
You don't think that's high?
I don't think it's high.
He threw an obtuse angle of an elbow at him.
First off, don't be getting acute with me, Danny. First, I don't think the principal point of contact wasn't like high, yeah, but the principal point of contact wasn't the head. It's the follow through that gets him, and like you can even see that in slow mo. And I don't like watching hits in slow mo, but it's the follow through that gets him. Elbow pads are so strong now; they're so sturdy that if you glance on a guy, it is going to break someone's nose. Is it a little high? Yeah. Is it a little reckless?
A little high.
At the same time,
you couldn't. It
didn't hit him in the ear, Danny.
It got him right in the face.
Oh, come on.
That is okay. When I watched it, I thought there was a blatant suspension, especially with the calls they've been making. Yeah, in terms of consistency, the calls they've been making, the suspension against Dante Fabro, the suspension against Tom Wilson. I think I thought consistency should be kept here because at the last second he just throws it up, and I'm making I like how I'm throwing the elbow up like people can see me.
That looked like a gang sign.
It looked like a gang sign. McDavid threw up some Oiler gang signs right into the face of his opponent.
I think, hear me out. I think for every 100 points you score in the league, you should get a free elbow to the face.
My God.
I think you should be allowed one free shot. You score over 100 points, you should be allowed one free shot. I'm okay with it. I have no problem with it. You score 4 goals a night, you should be able to add that Gordie Howe bloody nose to your record list. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Actually, here's an interesting thing real quick. I'll go back to this, but here's a Gordie Howe hat trick. Goal, assist, and a fight. Mm-hmm. How many of those did Gordie Howe have in his career?
I feel like he only had 1.
2.
Yeah, it was something like that, right?
They called a Gordie Howe hat trick, yet he's only had 2. Do you know who has, I think, the most all-time of that? I think it's Marcus Foligno. And so, I feel like we should at one point, how did Gordie Howe get that? I thought that was just what he did night in and night out.
Well, the real Gordie Howe hat trick was elbowing 3 guys in the face in one game. That's really what it was. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That guy was just absolutely smoking guys. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he didn't have time to score goals most of the time.
It's a different league. It's whatever. I remember Brian Leach talking about the first time he played against in his rookie season. He played against Mark Messier, and Mark Messier on his first NHL shift against Brian Leach jams the butt of his stick right into Leach's stomach, and he just drops down. Right.
Oh, I hate that one. Right into the ribs. I hate that one. That was my
soft spot
way to be hit. Yeah, I hate that.
But I thought this should have been a blatant suspension for McDavid. I thought this should have been a blatant, at least 1 game. First time, especially with the way, just because it was open ice, there was no reason for it. He wasn't finishing a hit in a corner like Tom Wilson was even doing. It was a blatant elbow. Wilson didn't even go with an elbow. I thought there should have at least been a game here, and it said that it's the maximum penalty of $5,000, and I was like, that's a major. That is any other player does that, and it just showed league bias. It just showed right there. It's like, well, you're coming to watch McDavid. You're tuning in to watch McDavid. Give him a $5,000 to a guy making $12 million a year is pennies on the dollar. I felt it was a little bit embarrassing. So fast forward, the next couple of nights later, we have Nathan MacKinnon softball tossing his helmet.
That was an underarm toss. I actually respect it really heavy.
Well, you look at the moments right beforehand. There was like a little whole wrestling match that ensued, and it was MacKinnon took exception to what was being done to him. So threw it right at his face, and then
I don't. You can speak on this. I don't have as big of a. I had a very similar situation where I think this is maybe midget or something like that, and I was playing, and I think a kid hooked me, and his stick kind of got stuck in my arms, like kind of in between it. And he I kind of yanked it out of his hand. So now I had both of our sticks. It was kind of caught in my midsection. And then I got a penalty it was like in my shoulder, and I got a penalty for throwing it back at his feet. But I was just like, I had this stick, like, I don't want it, like, just get it away from me.
Yeah.
It's so reactionary. Yeah, listen, I mean, could he have I don't think he meant to like dome him. I don't think he meant to hit him in the face with it. I just think he was like, I see a guy that doesn't have a helmet. I have a helmet. Let me toss it over. Was it Garland that got hit? It was Garland, right?
I think so.
He also overreacted like crazy. Yeah, I get it. It's a big.
I don't think you overreacted.
Oh, you're not like 1 pound.
But if you see, you're not looking directly at it, and you're also not expecting it, and then it hits you still at any point. And you throw anything. You want to take a helmet to the chin right now at that level? No, absolutely not. I guarantee it was no. I think that should have been. I don't think that should have been a suspension. I think it should have been a penalty, and I think it should have been a $5,000 fine for that made sense. I think the maximum allowance. I also think that maximum allowance should be much higher for guys who are making. I think it should be a percentage of your game check, right? Like
but now you're punishing superstars. Like I think that's a little bit crazy.
Because the consequences aren't there for him, right?
How?
If a guy making an entry level contract, comes in and does that $5,000 means a lot more to him than it does, and it means nothing to MacKinnon, right? So what you're saying is MacKinnon was like, yeah, I'll do that again, $5,000, no big problem, right? That guy who's making an entry level, he's less likely to do it, right?
Oh, so I don't think so. Whatever. I don't think that really matters too much. It's like, what am I really? It doesn't matter at all. If I'm Connor McDavid, I make $13 million a year. Am I really not going to overextend my elbow when I'm leaning into a hit? Because you're not thinking about $30K, and it's not even coming. It's not like it comes out of their bank account.
Where'd you get $30K?
I'm just saying, if you're going to raise it from 5 or whatever, if you're
right,
20,
but
30,
you're gonna
whatever is what you think is valuable. Like you're not going to go back and think that. It's like whatever.
Imagine
it doesn't come out of their bank account, Danny. It literally just comes out of their next paycheck and the next NHL check.
Exactly.
So
that's
really
my.
matter.
But so it's like he's like, oh, I'm not even thinking about it. Right. I'm not even thinking about it. Had that hit been there been an injury, a far worse injury from that McDavid hit, any other player would have had a suspension. Any other player. I see a lot of problem. Okay, and the reason why I see more problem with it is what happens. Fast forward a couple more nights after the MacKinnon situation. Chandler Stevenson, elbow sent in the corner, finishing a hit. Is it a little high? Is it a bit of an elbow? Yeah. 3-game suspension. A major penalty is called on the ice, and he gets a $71,000 fine. Right? Where the gap? And if you watch that play, it's not much worse than what happened with McDavid.
Daddy.
Yeah,
Daddy,
no question. In terms of the hit, oh, no question.
There is, first off, a hit against the boards is way more dangerous than an open ice hit.
Oh.
The fact that you're pressing someone's head, how can you even do that? The fact that you're pressing someone's head against glass, there's a way bigger tendency. If you hit someone specifically, if you're going from like a biomechanics standpoint, if you're going to hit someone in the jaw or the nose or anything like that, your head's going to naturally snap back. It's the natural defense mechanism that you have. If you're specifically going to hit someone against plexiglass, their head has nowhere to go, and they're going to, get that impact. That impact is going to grate, and it's going to be even more force. You have an open ice hit, Kakanyemi's going to be fine, maybe a couple stitches, whatever. This is a way more dangerous hit, and I'm not even like, I think both parties were kind of in fault here. We can kind of talk a little bit more about that, but a hit in the corner is way more dangerous than center ice, open ice, especially with just kind of like a flailing extended arm. There's no comparison.
While I appreciate the lesson, Dr. Durante, I would like to talk about a few realistic things from this moment here. One, in pre-production, you alone said puck watching, right? Yeah. He said, Yeah. So you talk about both parties being at fault here, right?
Yeah.
Regardless.
Would you like me to elaborate?
No. Yeah. Elaborate on puck watching real quick. So go back to the hit real quick.
Okay. So while there are specific rules and whatever, I forget exactly what the timing is and everything. You're on the NHL sheet. You can't be caught admiring your pass, and any NHL player or veteran will tell you this. Bjornfot, is that how you say it? He got caught puck watching like pretty crazy. Is it dangerous? At the same time, should Stevenson have kind of relaxed and stepped back a little bit? 100%. There's a ton of situations where a guy doesn't have the puck anymore and you're still going into him. You can let up and just kind of brush into him and push him. I do think the follow through is a little bit high. I don't know the height difference, but Stevenson looks a little bit taller. But Bjornfot, he's coming out of the corner. He's reversing the puck all the way to the other corner. So his skates are a little bit lower. He has a higher attack angle. He's dropped the shoulder. And then he reverses the puck and he gets caught watching. He doesn't protect himself. So there's a lot more information. I didn't check kind of the height comparison to really see, because that's tricky too when you get a guy that's taller, hitting someone that's a little bit shorter. I don't know if that's the case here, but I think both are at fault. I think Stevenson, even if he is taller, should have known that the puck is gone. You should have relaxed a little bit, just kind of shoved them. Don't go for the follow through like you should have. At the same time, I see a guy in Tobias that hasn't had a ton of NHL games that is going to learn a lot from this. And, don't admire your pass. You have to constantly be defending yourself when you're on the NHL sheet, because too many careers have ended because of it. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully everything's okay after this. But I think from this perspective, it's a little reckless on both parts, but you have to be defending yourself. Just because you don't have the puck, stuff can still happen. Even if it's a penalty, that doesn't mean that you're going to be safe just because it's a penalty. Stuff happens. It's a quick game. You have to always be thinking to protect yourself, which I think you could have done a little better here.
The first thing you kind of say is watch, protect yourself in the corner. They always kind of teach that early on in any level of hockey, whether it's mite, peewee, whatever. They teach you that, especially when checking gets into play. But I think my frustration is just league consistency. Stevenson was a first-time offender. Never had anything. For a 3-game for that. Yeah, an injury occurred. For Bjornfot to get injured, I think they threw that into a factor. But again...
But why should it be a factor? Why is that a factor? Like, it's unfortunate. I'm upset that it happened. I wish that he didn't get injured. But that should have no outcome on a call, which is something we've seen a ton of times. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I don't think that... Like, if Bjornfot gets up and skates to the bench, is that now not anything? Like, that's nothing if he just brushes it off, because I don't think that's fair either. I think, if you're, whether it's unfortunate or not, I think you should kind of go. But I don't like the fact that an outcome is going to influence, the league's response.
If Kakiniemi, who McDavid elbowed to the face, was injured, severely injured on that play, would there have been a suspension?
I probably don't like it. I guess if you draw blood from someone, then you're normally going to get a game or something like that, or like a 5-minute major. So I think it's a little bit of a different situation. It depends, but it really shouldn't for the most part. I think the only thing that matters is if he drew blood from him, because that's the only thing that really matters in terms of like NHL league officiating. If he, knocked him and drew blood from him, that's on McDavid for being careless, and I think he probably just gets kicked out of that game. I don't think there would be additional suspension, probably just a max fine, which I think the max under the CBA for that is a little greater. I could be wrong. But again, I really don't think outcomes should, in most instances, influence the league's response. I just think there's rules in place. It's unfortunate whenever an injury happens. You never want to see it happen, but I don't think that matters to me.
I think they let him walk, and they give Kakiniemi a slap on the wrist saying, "How dare you? Oh, how dare you?
Shut up."
There is such and I get it, and I don't think there's a better player to watch.
If you score 100 points in the league, you should get a free elbow. That is a straight petition. I'll do a GoFundMe. Like, we can absolutely take care of this. Like, I think you should.
If you score 100 points and you get a free elbow, who are you elbowing?
Ooh, that's a great question. Brandon Dubinsky.
He's at home. He's on the couch. He's not.
I just come into his living room wearing Jofas, just absolutely smoke him.
He was like, "I'm already on LTIR. Leave me be."
That's a fun. I love Brandon Dubinsky. This episode's gonna make it pan out like really well. But I love Dubinsky. But it's just really fun. But yeah, it'd be Dubinsky.
Did you happen to see the other night the Buffalo Sabres winning a game, actually breaking the streak?
I didn't, but my flight is booked. I'm going to the championship parade in Buffalo right now. I'm very excited to be joining Sabres Mafia. I couldn't be more excited. I think, man, the memes are flowing right now. I think everyone's super excited. I sent you a ton of them this morning. I was dying. Everyone in Buffalo is having a great time. I'd tell you one place that isn't having a great time is Philly. We talked a lot about on the lost episode, the Philadelphia Flyers. We mentioned a little bit earlier. Man, I think things are just getting worse and worse in Philly. I saw some report earlier that they're going to really look to switch some things up soon here too. So
Interesting.
I mean, great spot here for Buffalo. Great spot, one win. I feel like they're really going to turn this around and roll it out. But you got to win one. It's not been a great time to be a Sabres fan or to be a Buffalo Sabre itself. So I think there will be a lot of movement around that. You already saw, Eric Stahl get out of there, and I think you'll see Hall get moved too. But interesting landscape for Buffalo. Hey, congrats to them. I'm glad they kind of got some momentum there, but it'll be interesting to see what they do as well as kind of how Philly rebounds, because Philly is just getting dark right now.
Yeah, in the lost episode, we really went after. They had waived Gostisbehere, who no one picked up, by the way. I was surprised by that. All these players are hitting. I don't know if there's like a mutual respect around the league of like, hey, we're going to have to waive some people. We're not going to claim anybody. Like, we respect you, we respect us. Like, leave it be. But now I'm seeing Gostisbehere named in trade rumors, and I was like, why would he go unclaimed? I just don't understand that philosophy. But regardless, they put a lot of blame on the defense, and so they were like, let's waive Gostisbehere. And then they, made Carter Hart a healthy scratch, and they really put a lot of blame on him. Turn around, they lost 6-1 against the Buffalo Sabres. They almost lost to them the game before they played with them, and they ended up squeaking it out in overtime. And then they get shelled by a team. I think the next night, or the next game Buffalo played, they ended up losing to the Rangers, but they took them to overtime. I'll give them that. They took them to overtime, but I think they were outshot like 47-22 by the Rangers. And it's like, you're going to let a team that has such offensive struggles. I mean, the best part about the Rangers playing them, by the way, I don't know if you got a chance to see this, but Jeff Skinner got a breakaway.
Oh, the no-stick breakaway?
Oh, that is as Buffalo as it gets right now.
I loved it.
Buffalo, I give props to Skinner. He's like making something out of nothing, but my God, I mean, you're letting a team who's having meme after meme after meme beat you 6-1, and then you're like, well, it's the goaltending, it's the defense. No, it's the coaching. Let's just put it on call it what it is. It's the coaching. I don't know when the parade is in Buffalo. I don't know which if we're going to Anchor Bar or not for some wings, but I'll be there. I'm on that flight. My favorite video I've seen so far was a guy dressing up in full goalie pads, putting a tiny little table in his living room, and then jumping through it. It's like Sabres Mafia, here we come.
That video triggered me so heavy because the dude was wearing his pads backwards, and I just couldn't unsee it. That was really difficult. That got a lot of buzz in the goalie groups that I was following.
That might be why they're having problems. I'll give it to Olmark. Olmark is standing on his head night in and night out.
I mean, hey, you put your pads on the right legs, good thing happens. So glad to see that going at least.
I think he had 47 shots. The team lost 3-2, so he had 44 saves on the night. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
if this was NHL career mode, you're doing everything you need to make your goalie develop. So his potential is going to be skyrocketing.
Excellent potential. So I think we've done a lot of talking about around the league. Let's have some fun, because the next episode will be our NHL Trade Deadline special. It's super special. And so we're going to have a little healthy competition here at E2G Hockey with where Tyson and I will be doing a bit of we're going to go on a board of 10, right? And how many of we can each project on where these players are going to end up or where they don't end up. So we're going to do best of 10. You can keep score at home because we'll probably mess up the count. So we're going to go through a wheel. We have a fancy wheel here going through 10 players, and we're going to see predict. We're going to predict where they're going, and we'll see how many we get correct. So
if I can get one, I'll be happy. I'll take one all day.
I always feel like I do these, and I'm always wrong. So let's spin the wheel here.
I hear the music too. What is this, Super Mario?
You heard
Sunshine?
the wheel?
What's going on?
Let's try this again here.
How loud is this wheel?
This is the loudest wheel in the history of wheels.
My AirPods are gonna fall out. They're vibrating right now.
I love this. Okay. Is that copyrighted? Can we use that?
I think we can. I think we can use it. I'm gonna roll with it.
Oh my God. Okay, the first name on this list is Matthias Ekholm. And I think that's a good place to start because of Nashville's current situation. So, for those that have not been following, I'm sure all of you have been, is that Nashville was they were up creek without a paddle, right? And all of a sudden they found a couple oars and they're making their way and they're in the playoffs right now. They've actually bumped a Chicago team that's come back down to earth. Patrick Kane has done his best to keep that team afloat, but Nashville's come back and started being the team that we all expected them to be a little bit. I mean, their defense has always been fantastic. So Matthias Ekholm was the number one name on the trade board on TSN's hockey trade bait list, and he's now dropped all the way down to 6th, which I still think is too high for him. There's no question a number of teams would benefit from Matthias Ekholm. Heck, I think there's not a team that wouldn't. He'd be in your top 4 instantly across. I don't think there's a team, but he wouldn't be. He's got another year remaining on his contract, a very friendly deal that we've talked about here before on E2G Hockey. But Tyson, what's your prediction on where Matthias Ekholm ends up?
I agree with you. I don't know if they're going to trade him. I think if they do, I think someone that makes a big push will be the Leafs. I see this is very Jake Muzzin-y acquisition to me. I see this as like a very big parallel here. I think Dubas would really like this move, especially with a little bit of term left, 1 year back on his deal. It's not a complete gamble. You have a little bit of wiggle room. I think Toronto right now is really trying to surround their core with some solid pieces. I also really like David Savard to the Leafs. I think that could be something that's very viable.
But not there yet.
I can go do whatever I want, Danny. You don't tell me what to do. I really like Ekholm. I think from that perspective, I think that's really solid. I think there's a number of teams that could benefit from him, like you said. But if I bank on him being moved, which I'm still not 100% certain on, I think Toronto makes a lot of sense. Maybe a winger coming back.
I think that makes sense, and I think that's another name on this list that I think would come in the other way. But it would, for me, Nashville would have to suddenly not be in playoff contention. You have so much money out there with guys like Duchesne and Forsberg and such that you got to make a playoff push, right? And when guys are healthy, you're a good team. I don't see Ekholm getting moved. I see unless someone offers them the world, unless like in Toronto says we're going to give you our top prospect, a top prospect. They're not going to throw them like Sandin or somebody, but they say we're going to throw a solid prospect your way. Kerfoot, I think is the guy. We're not there yet, but if they say Kerfoot, a prospect and a first, yeah, you accept that deal if you're Nashville. But who's throwing him that? What
am I trading for? Wayne Gretzky? What are you talking about?
I know, but I'm saying otherwise you don't do that deal because there's no reason to do that deal. I would say if he ends up on a team, though, I think Winnipeg makes a strong push still. I still think they make an offer, and I think they could use him. They need some veteran leadership on that back end, and I think that makes sense. So that's my prediction. You say Toronto, I say Winnipeg. We both see him moving north, but I think all in all, I think we're also both right. This is like a twofold. Like we're both right if he stays. But if he goes to Toronto or goes to Winnipeg, we're also right. So we have 2 chances here. We got Mike Hoffman. He's been a name that's not been on the board as of late. There's been a lot of questions surrounding him with St. Louis. St. Louis, for those that hadn't seen as of late, they've fallen out of playoff spot, which is surprising because they're a darn good team. I don't know if it's injuries or what, but the Arizona Coyotes actually just bumped them for that last playoff spot, which now makes you wonder what Arizona's going to do. But if that's the case, if trends continue to go this way within the next week, Hoffman's on a 1-year deal. He was on this kind of 1-year trial deal. He's kind of had this kind of black mark on his career in terms of being a cancer in the locker room. So where do you see Hoffman going?
I just don't even know where you would like. I don't know who would want Hoffman. I don't want Hoffman. I don't know. Maybe you have a little bit more of a candid take, but I just don't. He doesn't really get me too excited. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I like Hoffman for a second. I like him as a
steep. Second is steep.
No, what I'm saying is a second scoring or a second line scoring option. No, yeah. I think the price for Hoffman's too high. I think that's my concern. I think is that the people they're going to want a lot for him, and I think they're just more willing to let him walk in free agency. Who needs
I see
winger
that.
help?
I see that more likely. I mean, we can go through the teams that need wingers. I just think you have your big fish, you have your Palmieri, you have your Taylor Halls, you have your guys that are probably a little bit more likely to be moved. I just see some other scoring options that I probably like, even though I do think this free agency is a little bit goalie heavy. I think it's a little bit more veteran presence heavy,
Right.
which is hilarious. But I don't know. I just think there's other offensive options. We can go through who we think we needs wingers, but I would much rather make a shout for like, I don't know, a Kerfoot or DeBrusque for Tannen, someone like that. I would much rather take a shot on those guys and have a chance to kind of bring in someone in that could really, need a change of scenery than Hoffman. That's
Right.
kind of how I see it.
Versus a guy that has historically had issues in almost every place he's played. Well, he was good in Florida. So you're saying is, and I think another thing is to look at is that had St. Louis been like crummy from the start and they're struggling, they're sellers, sure. But I don't think there's enough time between now and next week to kind of determine that this team's selling all of a sudden,
No,
So,
I think they end up holding. That's my prediction. I think Hoffman ends up staying.
I agree with you on that. So we both got two guys that are going to stand pat with that team. And I can get behind on that. So, okay. So we both think he's staying pat. So I think he could be a name that is like he's not on TSN's trade bait list, but we both see him as a potential name to kind of be like, he could be a peripheral guy if things start going a certain way. Okay. But we both think St. Louis stands pat on that. Let us hit this creepy wheel again. Luke Glendening, the number one centerman in the entire NHL in terms of face-off percentage. Third, fourth line centerman who's got like a 65% win, something ridiculous. What's your take on what's going to happen there?
I don't hate Glendening as long as the price isn't terrible. I'm trying to kind of go through it and see kind of where I would want something like that. I could see him going to maybe someone that's trying to get a little stability. Where do you really play at? Like, or deep? You don't want him on a second option. Yeah, he's a PK guy, but he's a 3-4 option, right? I could see this as like a really strong depth option for maybe like a Vegas or someone that's trying to settle up, even like an outsider, maybe like Islanders or something to that effect. I keep on thinking Vegas. I don't think this, like, if you're going to make a move for someone, this is a team that's already sturdy, maybe like a Vegas or a Tampa that wants to kind of, settle things a little bit. You're not getting a ton out of this, but you know what you're getting, and it's going to be pretty reliable.
So what's your one pick? What's your one pick?
I'm going to say Vegas. I like Vegas for that.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm staying up north. I'm going to Edmonton.
It's a good pick. It's a really good pick.
I think Edmonton, what's no question. They have the top six is filthy, right? And they need a depth guy right now to kind of anchor out that bottom. I think this move makes a lot of sense. They have a chance of winning the North Division and getting a good playoff seed. Their defense is actually overperformed, I would say. Offensively, they've overperformed, but I guess, they have two guys who are kind of been referenced in Norris conversation with Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse. So I don't think they need defense. Koskinen's been fine. I don't see them going for another goaltender right now, especially when you have Mike Smith as well. I see them trying to better their bottom six right now, and I think Glendening makes the most sense. And I think you can get him pretty cheap. And so I'm gonna say Edmonton.
I like that pick. That's a good pick.
Okay. So your pick was Vegas. My pick was Edmonton. We'll probably have to revisit this. We've written this down anywhere? No? Fantastic.
No, I'm going to forget in 15 minutes.
We'll have to listen to this podcast again. All right. How many have we done? Was that 3 so far? How many?
Let's. I feel like 10's a lot. Let's cut it down to like 5. I feel like I'm going to be here all day and I need to get some snacks going. I haven't eaten anything. It's a morning podcast. Let's go down to 5. I think we're okay.
Okay. Savard. You mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, Savard I like. Similar kind of Ekholm-y. I think he's a lot more likely to get moved just because of Columbus's current situation. I think any assets you can bring in right now, I see that as a little bit more realistic opportunity. I think he goes north. I think there's, the two kind of standard teams in the north that you're going to be looking at. I could see Edmonton making a move, kind of depending on who they grab. I think either Edmonton or Toronto will be active. I think they'll make at least 3 moves between them. I think that this is a little bit more likely. I don't love Savard. Like, I think Savard's 3. I think Toronto will probably make a push for him. I'm just feeling Edmonton, but I want to go different than your first pick. I'm going to say Toronto. I like that pick. And I think that's more realistic than Ekholm. I think Ekholm, I was kind of thinking it. I think they'll call on Ekholm, and then it'll end up settling on Savard.
Okay. I'm going to have a hot take on this one.
Okay.
Because I also don't love that he's the number one person on the trade board.
Yeah, it's
again,
a gross number one. It's not super fun.
Right. So, and he's a fine player. He's just, I think I don't think he's a top 2. I think he's a mid to bottom of your. So I'm thinking here, who's willing to overpay for Savard? Right. That's my question. Who's willing to do that? And I think there's a couple of teams that are on the cusp of making it and are kind of making that final push. And I'm like, which of them would need a defenseman who's going to overpay? I'm going to say the Flyers. I'm going to say Philly's going to overpay for Savard, and he's not going to live up to expectations, what they think he's going to be bringing. So I'm going to say the Flyers overpay for Savard. That's my take on that.
Dark horse pick. I could very well see Florida doing something stupid and making a move for it. I could see the Panthers making a shout for it. My official pick is still Toronto, but I would not be surprised if I saw Florida do something stupid.
Florida makes sense with the Ekholm injury because
Ekblad.
Ekblad. I said Ekholm. I'm sorry.
Brutal.
I'll see myself out. I think yeah, with the Ekblad injury, I could totally see them throwing because this is Florida's year as well. They haven't been this good in forever. You got to go for it. I'm not going to spin the wheel. I'm just going to spin my finger. That makes sense. We're just going to do it. Our show. Taylor Hall.
The man that everyone came here for.
We'd be remiss not to do it.
He's already come out and said he's going to waive his no trade.
No, he said he'd be willing. He said he'd be willing
to.
Come on.
Well, he said, yeah, sure. He'd be willing to. That's just him saying, yeah, get me out of here. Does he have a full no move, or is it a team? Do you know?
Full.
Okay. So
he'll waive everything. It doesn't matter. You can't even factor that in. What you have to look at is Buffalo retaining salary, so a team can take him on and offer secondary scoring, or because if he can even offer that, they're oh man. Have you watched?
I'm gonna say I've watched a decent bit. I'm a big Taylor Hall guy. I'm gonna make a prediction. I don't think he stays east. I think he's gonna go. I think that experiment is kind of done for the most part. I think Taylor Hall is really effective. Dark horse pick. This isn't my official pick. I could really see Edmonton making a shout for him. I have heard a few rumors here or there about that. I could very well see Edmonton making a shout for it. I'm going to say something that's like a little gross. I could very well see Colorado throwing some assets and going all in. I like that a lot. You retain like 2-3, get them for like 5-5, 6, somewhere around there. I love Colorado for Taylor Hall.
Put him on a line with Nazem Kadri, who's just going to open up space for him. That would be nice, actually.
I like that pick. That's what I'm going with.
I do too. I think it makes sense. What do you give up for him, though? That's the question: is what can you get from him? Can you get a? I mean, I think there's a couple teams that have to go all in this season. I think Colorado is one of them because
Colorado's getting close. Yeah, I don't think they're getting quite to the point of Toronto, but I think Colorado's getting close. It's got to be someone. You're not touching Makar, but
nobody's.
Byram is your Bowen Byram getting a little bit more?
No way. There is no. Have you watched Bowen Byram play? He's filthy. I think
you can only have so many defensemen on one team, Danny.
But,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, so throw Graves. Throw Graves at him. I think Graves makes more sense. I don't think you don't get excited about Graves, but Graves and a prospect and a pick or something like that.
Yeah, if it's Graves, it's gonna have to be. Man, if it's Hall and they're retaining maybe like whatever the max is allowed, I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe Graves and first, maybe a second, somewhere around there. I think a second and like a fourth is somewhere a little bit more pragmatic, but I could see that happening. I would love that move from Colorado.
I think that we're not talking about Bowen Byram enough because of Makar. If Makar wasn't on the scene there, he would be the golden child to come because he's great. And then I love the depth and youth that Colorado has. Shane Bowers is going to be great for them. I think that team, Nathan MacKinnon has got the best contract in the league. You can argue McDavid's is the best contract in the league because any contract that you have him on, they're minus $19 million a year. But yeah, I like that pick for you. I think they're a team that needs it. It's not where I think he's going, though. I think he stays east.
Where do you think he's going?
Boston. I think Boston switches up and trades DeBrusque for him. You put Krejci and Hall together, veteran guys. Boston's always been about the veteran guys. They like that older kind of legitimacy to their team. I can't think of, Pasternak's the youngest guy on the team because he's a stud. I think Taylor Hall ends up in a Bruins jersey. I think the Leafs make a push for him, but I think DeBrusque is too enticing a piece, and I think that there's a swap there, and maybe like a third or a second. I don't think Boston.
That's
do
the
you?
That's the grossest thing of all time. I'm not saying it's not realistic, but I would hate to see Taylor Hall in a Bruins jersey. That'd just be so ugly.
I think that makes sense. I think the only other team that could potentially make a push for him out east in that division would be the Islanders, trying to replace Anders Lee. But I think they go after. I think the Islanders get Kyle Palmieri from the Devils. I think that makes the most sense. He brings a similar style. Oh, do you know actually who I think Okay, Islanders will have one or two players. I know we're kind of wrapping it up, and that doesn't count as part of our five. Because I said Boston, you said Colorado. We'll both be wrong for some reason. Somebody will, Arizona will take him again. Foligno out of Columbus. I think either Foligno ends up either an Islanders jersey, and I saw someone say Minnesota. I don't think that's a bad pick because they need someone who can play center. Foligno can do it. This isn't a great center free agency, but Minnesota's going to be making a push, and I think Foligno offers a good. Put the Folignos together. Why not? But I think the Islanders will either have Palmieri or Foligno by the end of the trade deadline. That's my prediction.
All right, bold. I like it.
So that's been our takes there. You can argue with us. You can call us we're crazy. Call us we're crazy. That's a sentence.
Here's my number. So call us crazy.
Thank you, early 2010s. I appreciate you. Hey, I just met you. Don't want to get TMCA'd. God, this coffee saving my life this morning. So that's any other players you want to talk about, or we can just say to hell with it. I think there's other names on here that are not as interesting. Bobby Ryan, Kerfoot will be moved if the right offer comes around. I don't really care about Jonathan Bernier. No offense, Jonathan Bernier, but I think there's nothing special about where he's going to end up. Braden Holtby could be moved, but I think they hold on to him. That's who I had on here. So that's our trade deadline predictions. We got our fives each, and we'll see how many we get. So there's a lot of weight now from each being the 10 points now to being a 20% point.
Every pick is more important.
Every pick's more important. Well, I think that's about it for this episode, Tice. What do you feel?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's about that time. This has been E2G Hockey with Dan. He's been Tyson. I've also been Dan.
I've also been Tyson.
I've also been. We are part of E2G Sports Network, home of the Unsung Sports Grid. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with our NHL Trade Deadline coverage and our analysis from that. Thank you for listening. Please share with your friends. Tell your loved ones. Have your grandmas listen. Grandmas love us, is what we've realized. So.
Send me your grandma, please. FedEx Express. I will send a label.
I will pay for shipping. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.